Good evening, everybody. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is an emergency live stream, okay? Because it does look like the digital ID is here. It's come back. The king has said it. The king has spoken, and digital ID is coming. Can you guys remember when? When there was the petition, and digital ID just got scrapped? I said to you guys, I said, look, they want digital ID. Digital ID will come. You guys have got no idea how powerful this machine is. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that I keep harping on about time and time and time again. We need that legal framework to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. Now, and a lot of people don't understand that because they don't understand that there are things that have happened already in the United Kingdom that can't be undone. We are looking at a tsunami of civil conflict it's already here. I'm going to share with you guys just the events, just like the notable events that have happened in the United Kingdom in the last 24 hours. It's absolutely unbelievable, guys. It's absolutely unbelievable. I talk about all this, literally today. I was going absolutely bonkers all over X. I was posting whenever I could, wherever I could, because people don't understand, right? People are so fixated. They can't laterally think. People are looking at the problems we have now, right? They're looking at the problems we have now. You can't look at the problem we've got now. You've got to look and think for the problem that we're going to have in 12, 18 months time, 2 years time. That's what you need to be thinking of, right? Thinking of a solution for the problems we have now will be obsolete by the time that function comes to be of any use. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen, and I know I say this all the time. I'm just going to touch on it now briefly. I've done this to death. I do it probably every day. What legal framework do we have in the United Kingdom to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government? We have none, okay? So this is what's going to happen with the king with this digital ID, right? There'll be another petition, check. Maybe it will get 5 million signatures this time. Check, we've done a petition. There will be a peaceful protest. So we're going to protest peacefully. We're all going to go down there, maybe led by Tommy Robinson or somebody, and he's going to, we don't want digital ID. Yeah, we're winning. Right, okay, yeah. Have you gone home? Yeah, they've gone home now. Okay, good. We're going to lobby MPs. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But ultimately, it will still happen. And without being able to say, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about like the breakdown in the rule of law. I'm not talking about anarchy. I'm absolutely not. I'm actually trying to prevent anarchy. I'm trying to prevent civil conflict, the likes where millions of people in this country die. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, a civil war will take between 1% to 4% of your population. That's not me making it up. They are they're the facts, right? They are the facts. I think in the United Kingdom, we will be on the higher end of that because we are an island and there's nowhere anyone can run, right? Bosnia, I don't know, Kosovo, Bosnia, Ukraine, people can flee by foot, right? They can flee by foot. You can't do that in the United Kingdom. You can't drive out of the United Kingdom. You have to get a ferry. Well, guess what, sweet cheeks? Guess what happens when the bad guys take control of the ferry port and they close down all the airports? Yeah, you guessed it. Nobody ain't going nowhere. And let's not pretend that can't happen, ladies and gentlemen, because it absolutely can. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've lived through it. All you guys need to do is start that conversation. Because if we can get some traction, I don't even care if it's me or the Tooth Fairy, if we can get that traction to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government, because what's coming is coming. The civil war is already here. Just because nobody stood on a balcony and announced it with a green, with a green tracksuit on, doesn't mean that it is not here. Now, here in Britain, where I live, where I like to live. I do, guys. I love living in Britain. I love living in England. Although I am looking at America. I am looking at America more with more envious eyes. Here in Britain, we like to believe we live under the rule of law. We cherish the idea that we have rights, safeguards, and a proud tradition of liberty stretching back to the Magna Carta. But I want everybody right now to be honest with yourself, and put yourself in this scenario right now, okay? For entertainment purposes, of course. What happens if the government passes a law so extreme, so draconian, that no reasonable person could possibly regard it as legitimate or just? What would happen? So let's just say, for example, we had a prime minister who was heavily subverted, and check my other videos on that. And we had an attorney general who is one of his mates, and he's on the same agenda, and they just decide to pass a law, and it's so bad, nobody can even think for a second that it is what the people want. A law, for example, that strips away fundamental rights, targets political opponents, or fundamentally alters the character and demographics of our nation against the will of the people. I don't know. Let's just say that happened, right? Under our current system, that law would be perfectly legal, and the police would be obliged to apply that law by force. And did you hear something else in the King's speech? Did you hear in the King's speech the new, the new reforms in the police service? I was warning about this over a year ago, guys. I did. I spotted this over a year ago. Remember, listen, you guys have been following me for a while. Please put it in the chat if you remember me saying it, okay? Whereby, I think it was, what was his name? Not Mark Carney, the Met Police off it guy. He came up and he did a speech. He says, "Yep, I'm recommending that the police has big reforms. You know, we're gonna have super forces." And one of the things I said from the get-go is, ladies and gentlemen, this is the direction of travel it's going, where we now employ private security to help the police. And you guys know from my live streams that a lot of private security in the United Kingdom, English is not their first language. So if a law was passed in the United Kingdom, so draconian and bad that nobody could agree with it, it would still be legal. It would still be legal. For example, and I know this would never happen. I know this would absolutely never happen, right? But for example, if the government came out and said, I don't know, so let me think of something wild, that the rights of asylum seekers trump the rights of people of, I don't know, let me think of a town, Epping. Let's just say that happened, right? I know that would never happen, right? That would be insane, right? We can protest peacefully. We can sign online petitions. We can write to our MPs and lobby our councils and campaign through lawful channels. But what if none of that works? I don't know. What if there was a hotel that people went through all those chains and the government said, yeah, we understand you've been through all those chains. We get that, but we're still keeping it open. What if none of it works? What if the state simply ignores you? What if they ignore the concerns of millions of tax-paying British citizens and continue down their authoritarian path? Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying this is happening right now. I am actually, right? I definitely am. The uncomfortable truth that everybody seems to be missing. And I feel like, honestly, guys, I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall. Because nobody can see where we are going, where we are. And people are thinking of solutions to the problems that have just happened. Well, let me let you guys into a little secret. Those problems that have just happened, that's it now, they're done. People are thinking, yeah, well, Birmingham, if we vote for reform. No, you don't understand. You don't understand how deep this problem is, guys. You don't understand this on every level like I do. I've worked in the military. I've worked on counterterrorism teams. I've been special forces operator deep behind enemy lines. I've worked at government level. I've worked as an advisor. I've worked in other countries' militaries, advisors at the very highest levels. I know how this thing works, right? I absolutely know how this thing works. So we can do all the things, that way. Look, guys, if you think I'm waffling, right, Google it. Literally, not now, obviously, because you're watching the live stream. Put into Google AI, or I think it's Gemini or whatever. Just put in the United Kingdom, how would I oppose a tyrannical government? And they will say, online petition, protest peacefully, write to your MPs, write to your local councillors, write to your MPs, campaign through lawful channels. Yeah, good luck with that. What if that doesn't work? Oh, well, that's it. Then you get to vote. What, in 4 years? So the uncomfortable truth that every one of you guys needs to understand and needs to accept, right? Rather than arguing with me, you need to accept the truth, because listen, guys, I tell you what's coming long before it happens. 2 years before the invasion, I can't even be bothered. 2 years, right? 2 years before the war in Iran happened. I told you the exact month. I told you the exact date that would start. When Operation Midnight Hammer went in, I told you the exact date that would go in. I tell you things that are coming before they come, and So the uncomfortable truth is Britain lacks a clear ultimate check against tyranny. We have no written constitution in this country. We don't. We have Britain does not have a constitution. So every time you hear politicians, right, and they say, "Oh, that would be a constitutional issue," and I'm like, "What do you mean, mate?" Well, go on, tell me what you mean. Well, it's not. It's constitutional law. What do you mean? Where is it? Show me this document you're talking about. Well, it's constitution. And if you think for 1 second that politicians and these people in charge have a brain cell between them, I'm not saying this just to be inflammatory. I was standing for reform. I was standing for reform at the last election, right? I resigned just before the election because I didn't want to be part of it. And I used to go to these meetings and I used to stand around and think, wow, these people are special. They're not the brightest, okay? And these are the people that are running our country. Let me just share with you guys this video real quick.
I went into Parliament thinking, I've been in business all my life. These people must be able, they must be bright, they must know something.
This is how I tried to get into politics. I thought, you know what? I've been in the military. I've been in business. I've operated internationally, foreign governments, these people who I'll be around, they must be smart. They must know something. They must be intelligent. They must be intellectuals. They're not. They're buffoons. They're buffoons who have no idea what they're doing.
Let me tell you definitively, they know nothing.
And that is the truth, guys, okay? That is the absolute truth. And the problem is, I'm trying to tell people, I'm trying to get my message to people in government. I've done this with the military. I've done this for years with the military. I've written to them. I've sent them proposals. I've told them what's coming in the future. They don't listen because they're not intelligent enough to listen. They don't know what they're talking about. Imagine giving a caveman, right? Do you know what this is like? It's like giving a caveman a mobile phone, right? That's pretty much like, right? You give a caveman a mobile phone, right? He's going to try and eat it. I'm not saying that David Lammy tries to eat mobile phones or anything. I'm just giving it as an example. I don't know if he does. He might do. I don't know. I'm not saying he does. I'm not saying he doesn't. But if you gave a caveman a mobile phone, he would say, "Oh, yeah, I don't know what that is. You put it on a spear or something." So it is an uncomfortable truth in the United Kingdom that Britain lacks a clear ultimate check against tyranny. We have no written constitution, and anybody that says that we do have a written constitution in the United Kingdom, ladies and gentlemen, they are a flat out liar. They are. Anybody who says in the United Kingdom that we have a constitution, they're an absolute flat out liar. There's no denying that. Absolute flat out liar. Anyone who says that, So we have nothing that sets unbreakable limits on government power. Our written constitution relies on conventions, goodwill, and the restraint of those in office, things that can too easily be discarded. In other countries, for example, the United States, a codified constitution gives citizens a clear legal shield and ultimately a reference point for defending their liberties. How do we defend our... Do you know what? I think I'm going to change this. I think I'm going to change this to how do we defend our liberties? Here, we are left in the United Kingdom, we are left asking, what's the final safeguard? What's the final rung on that ladder? History teaches that the ultimate checks against a tyrannical state has sometimes been the willingness of free people to resist. Yet, in modern Britain, we have no formal mechanism, no entrenched rights, no entrenched constitution. Nothing fundamental that can't be overturned by a simple majority in Parliament. And this is why so many of us now believe that the time has come, well, I believe that the time has come, where Britain needs a real constitution. We need a clear, it doesn't even have to be called a constitution. We need something that's clear, understandable. We need clear and understandable rules that place real limits on government power and give people genuine protection against overreach. Because rights that can be removed on a whim are not rights at all. Privileges that can be given and taken away are not privileges. So the question that I think everybody needs to ask themselves is, if peaceful means are exhausted, what real defense do you have against your government becoming, the British government becoming a tyranny? I would say that you guys have got none. Because you guys have got none, I will also say that I've got none. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to... Okay, so hang on. I've got a couple of articles here. Have I done that one? Right, so something happened the other day. Can you guys remember? In fact, it was this morning, actually. It was this morning. Can you guys remember this morning when... I was on the live stream this morning and they were talking about, I think it was Patrick Christie, and he was talking about the government pulling out of or rejecting Article 8 of the Human Rights Law, the ECHR, right? The ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights. Article 8. Now, Article 8 in the Human rights is it's the right to family and private life, right? Yeah, you guys know where I'm going, right? So what the government are doing is they are trying to revoke Article 8, and what they're saying is migrants are coming to the United... Seriously, guys. What they're saying is migrants are coming to the United Kingdom and they are claiming that because they're here, they have a right to a family, right? You know, so I don't know. Lars Fredriksson, the Norwegian fisherman, right? He comes over on a little rubber dinghy, right? And he's like, right, okay, good. I'm here, right? Okay, I'm in the United Kingdom. Okay, good. Under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, he has the right to a family life. He does. He has the right to a family and private life. So what they're saying is, under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, Lars Fredriksson can bring his family over. So every time you see one migrant come over, you can times that by at least 5 because they're going to bring their families over, right? So what they're saying is, the government are, because of migration and people abusing this law, the government are going to back out of, or they're going to like try and oppose Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. Yeah, you heard the last bit to that, right? So that guarantees the right to a family and private life. Now, with the private life, if you get rid of that, that would basically mean that you have no defense against the digital ID. Do you see where they're going with that? Oh, migrant crisis. Right, get rid of Article 8. Okay, digital ID. Oh, I don't want digital ID. Well, it's tough. There's no way you can go about it. What about my rights to a private life? Yeah, we got rid of that because of the migrants. All right, okay, give me the digital ID. We need a microchip in his hand. Yeah, right, okay, then I might as well just do it now. Honestly, it's absolutely bonkers. Right, let me talk about the digital ID for a second, because this is a perfect example. This is an absolutely perfect example of how these things happen, right? So digital ID limps on. It was once heralded as a silver bullet in the battle against illegal immigration. Can you remember when oh God, I forgot this. I totally forgot this. Can you guys remember how when Keir Starmer came up and he goes, to battle illegal immigration, we're going to have a digital ID. Can you imagine Lars Fredriksson, right? And he's just about to get on the boat. And then he's like, Lars, yes, mate. Don't go over there. Why? Whew. They've all got to have digital ID. Who? Well, everybody who lives there. Yeah, but I'm going to be claiming asylum. Yeah, I know. But everybody who lives there, they're going to have a digital ID and do the face thing. So Palantir, Palantir can check their vaccine status against their online, against their Facebook posts. And, so you don't want to go over there. Like, will I still get my hotel? Oh, yeah, it'll still get you free hotel. Will I still get my 3 meals a day? Oh, yeah, you'll still get you 3 meals a day. Will I get my, my money as a side burner? Yeah, you'll still get your bit of money in the bank. Will I still be able to work? Oh, yeah, no one can stop you. Will I have to have the digital ID? Probably not. That's only for UK citizens. Oh, right. Digital ID limps on. It was once heralded as a silver bullet. There are no silver bullets, ladies and gentlemen. If any of you guys have worked in business where people are making real money, there are no silver bullets. There are not. There are no silver bullets, and there are no overnight successes. The only way to get ahead in life is to get your head down, to work hard, and to keep pushing. I absolutely promise you with 100% certainty, that is the only way to get ahead in life. Okay. Hard work. So digital ID limps on. I keep talking about this, right? It was once heralded as a silver bullet in the battle against illegal immigration, and now as one way for employers to check the credentials of new hires. It's not compulsory and could help people who've no other official form of identification, like a passport or driving license, the King's Speech said. Last year, Keir Starmer told me he'd hoped the scheme would lead to people saving money on ID checks when taking big financial commitments like a mortgage. Needless to say, this did not go down well with the ID verification industry. Despite a distinctly lukewarm reception from the public so far, support for digital ID has never fallen off the agenda. Let's not forget, it started life in a form of national ID card under the Prime Minister, Tony Blair. Anything that starts under Tony Blair is going to be bad, right? It is. Anything. There's no caveat to that. Right. I'm going to jump onto the chat, ladies and gentlemen, and then I'm going to give you guys a rundown on. I'm going to jump onto the chat, and then I will give you guys a rundown on what's happened in the United Kingdom in the last, I think it's like 24 hours or something. 3 young women pulled out of the beach in Brighton. A man shot, I think a Turkish man shot because he owed 100 grand or something. And then there was another man shot with a standoff with the police somewhere. I think it was in Bedford, and we're going to talk about those. But good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Right. Once I've gone to the chat, I will be turning you guys off on X. I will, guys. I'll be. Oh, hang on a minute. Kia's in the chat. Right. Where's Kia? Hang on. Hang on. Oh, I don't think he should get banned. I don't think he should get banned. Hang on a minute. He's been nice. Keir Starmer is the greatest prime minister England ever had, loved by millions. I think right. I'm going to put him in timeout for a bit. He's not saying anything. He's not saying anything offensive. Right, he's gone anyway. I hope he gets. I hope he behaves himself. I do. I hope he behaves himself. Right, let me. Yeah, I've got him, guys. He's gone. Right, Rod Panhard is saying the petition against digital ID was the 3rd largest in UK history. Millions signed it. All that means is it gets discussed in Parliament, and by discussed I mean ignored. Yeah, this is exactly what I mean, right? So, Rod, Ruben's saying exactly the same. 3 million voted against digital ID, but then again, 53% of us voted to leave the EU, and Starmer totally ignores that as well. So, with all this stuff, right? I keep going back to those fundamental messages. The fundamental things that we need. We don't where is the ultimate, where is the ultimatum? So Keir Starmer, right? He sat there on his silvery horse, with flowing hair. Shadowfax, the lord of all horses, right? So Keir Starmer sat there and, he's passing these laws and legislations, and he knows that there is nothing that can go wrong for him, personally. And I'm not talking about hurting him or anything. I'm just saying ultimately, there's nothing that can go wrong for him. He can pass whatever, the government, they can pass whatever laws they want. And we don't have a way of saying, well, actually, no, we're not going to do this. Mark my words. Thumbnail this little snippet right now. Thumbnail this, guys, okay? There will be a time in the near future where someone refuses to comply with the draconian law, whether that be medication, whether that be a refusing to have digital ID, whether that's, they might have put something spicy on X or Facebook or whatever. There's going to be a time coming very soon when migrants working for a private security company, subcontracted by the police, are sent to arrest that person. I promise you that's coming. And can you imagine where we're going to be at that point? But still, people won't know, you can't look at the problems we have. You've got to try and deal with the problems that are coming. Because if you try and deal with the problems we've got, they will have developed and evolved by the time you deal with them. Right, I'm jumping down to the bottom, ladies and gentlemen. Thorpause is saying, Sean, you see, this is what happens when you don't ban a spammer. They come back. Right, where are they? Oh, he's come back. Hang on a minute. Right, hang on a minute. Let me get... Right, okay. Well, he hasn't come back. In fairness, he's changed his mind. He's changed his right. He's gone. He's gone now. He's gone. Right, Googling us is saying Ed Miliband and hasn't he got a brother? I think it's Dave. Miliband and Streeting to fight Starmer for number 10. Can you imagine that? Is that going to be a sword fight? I'm going to assume that's going to be a pork sword fight. On Tuesday, Streeting will fire the starting gun on a 3-way. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. So apparently, on Thursday, Streeting's going to start a firing gun for a 3-way leadership contest with Ed Miliband and Starmer. I'm not sure it's going to be a leadership contest. I just think he's going to. Honestly, I just think that West Streeting, he just wants to fire a gun on a 3-way between him, Starmer, and Miliband. Oh, hang on a minute. Scottish Sonia is saying, loving your UFO updates. Thanks for your service. And Scottish Sonia has become a member. Thank you so much, Scottish Sonia. I'm also doing quite a lot of hantavirus updates as members only videos. Now, I'm not, you guys are not missing out. You know, they're on the normal channel. It's just when I do the members only videos, I do them like straight off. And they're quite raw, and it's like the raw information that's getting out there. So worst case scenario, best case scenario, you get that early. Worst case scenario, you know, it may not come. Jay is saying that chat was much better when you only had 500 subscribers, Sean. Full of helmets these days. Oh man, Jay, you just have to deal with it, mate. We just have to take the rough with the smooth. Just have to take the rough with the smooth. Hang on a minute. Where did Jay say? Yeah, Jay, I went on a blocking spree the other day. I did. I went on a blocking spree, and I went on a blocking spree the other day, and when I went on that blocking spree, I was really annoyed at myself because a lot of the people that I'm blocking, they're the people who I need to get through to, right? They're the people who I need to get through to. Googling us is saying, Navy's new frigate hit by setback after being built in wrong order. Oh, my God. Work on fleet of new Royal Navy warships has suffered a setback after 2 of them were assembled incorrectly. Honestly, you couldn't make that up. You could not make it up. You really couldn't. Right, I'm just scrolling. Right, okay. Right, I'm going to start blocking. Right, Right, Sonny, I'm going to block you. I am going to block you now, right? It's winding me up. Blocked. Right, hang on, guys. I'm going to go on a blocking spree. You see, when I go on a blocking spree, I get like, I just start blocking everyone. Right, Sonny. Right, Sonny's going as well. Sonny's getting blocked. Oh, he was already blocked. Right, I think we're good. So what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to turn you guys off on X, and then I'm going to talk about how I've said this for quite a few times. Quite a few times I've talked about this. How we're already in a state of civil war in the United Kingdom. I don't think people understand like what's happening right now in the United Kingdom. It's not normal, guys. It's not. So I'm going to give you guys a rundown on some of the notable incidents that have happened in the United Kingdom in the last 24 hours. Again, limited information on this. Bodies of 3 young women pulled from sea off Brighton. The bodies of 3 young women have been recovered from the sea off the coast of Brighton. So there's not really much more information that they're putting out on this, but it's understood the women were about 20 to 30 years old and were first spotted at Brighton Palace before drifting into the marina. I don't know what's happened there. I don't know whether they're just girls being drunk. I don't know what's happening there. But the reason I'm bringing that to everyone's attention is lots of strange stuff keeps happening in Brighton. Right, let me share this with you as well. This is all in the last 24 hours, right? Man shot outside family's restaurant after refusing to pay Turkish gang £100,000. Yeah, £100,000. Bayatullah Gunduz, 39, an alleged member of the Hackney Turks, those Hackney Turks, guys, those Hackney Turks, denies conspiracy to murder as part of a feud with a rival gang. So, like, when did these things start happening? When did these things start happening with gangs and rival gangs and shootings? These things are already here now. And, these things are already here. And there's absolutely no going back. Also, what am I doing? Also, man shot dead by police officer after overnight standoff. This is all in the last 24 hours. A man has been shot dead overnight in an overnight standoff in Bedford. The force said specialist armed officers and police negotiators tried to engage him over a number of hours before he presented a weapon before the police fired about 9:30, like yesterday morning. So he was pronounced dead shortly before 10:30, and police said his next of kin were supporting the officers. Also, what's just come to my mind as well, I think yesterday in Nottingham, there was a car ramming. Now, I don't know what other information's come out about that. They said initially it was a white man. It may have been, I don't know. They kind of changed that rhetoric after the next report came out. But what I'm getting at here is civil war. It's not going to be us. It's not going to be two sides, right? It's going to be like this, just an increase in crime. I mean, what do we talk about? What is it? The London Kurds? Hang on, what was it? The Hackney Kurds. The Hackney Kurds are shooting people now because one Hackney Kurd wants 100 grand off somebody else. So now you've got these rival gangs in London. I don't know what they're owning, kebab shops, or I don't know. And I love a Turkish kebab, guys. I do. I'm not going to lie. So this is just going to keep progressing and progressing and progressing. And normal everyday people who just want to go about their business and, go to the park with their kids, we now have this phenomenal criminal element that's operating in the United Kingdom. And that's the real violence that's coming. The Hackney Turks, right? The Hackney Turks are not going to, the Hackney Turks, I don't know, what's his name? Hang on. Baytullah Gunduz, right? Good old Baytullah Gunduz, the alleged member of the Hackney Turks, better known as Bomber Claire, the Turkish for bombers. Oh, so he's okay. So they know him as the bomber. So that's his name, the bomber. So this guy, Baytullah Gunduz, right? The leader, I'm going to assume he's the leader of the Hackney Turks. He's not going to open a balcony one day and say, I, Baytullah Gunduz of the Hackney Turks, now do declare war on, I don't know, I don't even know, somewhere else in London, the Soho Iraqis, the Soho Kurds, yeah, because they would be fighting actually. The Hackney Turks versus the Soho Kurds. That's never going to happen. Never in a million years. What will happen is increased violence, like what you're seeing now. So Beytullah, bless him, you know, he shot a man. He shot another man outside outside a Turkish restaurant. Now, do you think that the guy who he shot, rival gangs, do you think they're going to try and do something back? Of course they are. And when they do something back, do you think there's going to be an escalate? Of course there is. Somebody's going to get caught in the crossfire. Of course they are. This is not coming, ladies and gentlemen. This is here. And everything gets solved. Everything gets sorted. If you can find that some sort of, legal framework. Right. Googleinos. Guys, I really need a wee. Googleinos is saying Miliband vows permanent shutdown of the North Sea. Labour is set to ban new oil fields and gas fields in Britain, making it far harder for any future government to reopen the North Sea. It is quite easy to, so like physically, it's really easy to reopen the North Sea. Putting legal checks and balances in, they can just be ripped up, right? If I was in charge, I would literally just rip everything up. Kinder is saying, took me 2 years to get a headstone because I thought they buried her with one. Right, I don't know what that means. Good night, UK. City giants dump bonds over Starmer's leadership crisis. Major investors are turning their backs on UK government. Starmer faces a leadership crisis. In fairness, that might be a silver lining to a cloud. Right, let me just Google this. Hang on, give me a second. Yeah, so from the Telegraph. Good night, UK. So investors are warning of market knee-jerk reaction if a left-wing candidate wins the contest. All right, okay. Yeah, it's nobody wants more taxes. And this is a thing that nobody, actually we do understand. And this is why, I'm confident Keir Starmer is going to stay until he's served his purpose, right? Now, I think his purpose is to bring in mobilization. That's what I think his purpose is. I do. Also, Keir Starmer's purpose could be to bring in mobilization. That could absolutely be his. Bring in digital ID. That could absolutely be his purpose. We need to stop thinking about these politicians as like anything other than buffoons. Yeah, anything other than, not all of them, obviously. You see, what happens is, like, Ed Miliband's a good example. David Lamb is a good example. They go from university, and then they leave university with a degree in politics, maybe a master's degree in international negotiations or something, which is worthless. It means nothing. It really does, guys. They're not worth the paper they're written on. Or a degree in diplomacy or something. I think it's international diplomacy. I've got a friend. He's got a degree in international diplomacy. He said it was the biggest bluff he's ever done. So you leave university, right, with no real idea of what the real world is. No idea. You then join a political party as an aide. So you join, Labour as, a researcher for Keir Starmer or something. And you work out of that office and, you stay there, and then they're like, hey, mate, why don't you run? And you're like, what? Me run? Yeah, you run. You've proven yourself a good boy. Why don't you run? And these people have no idea about the real world. No idea. Rod is saying, say this about the Chinese. If you don't have anything to do with their criminal underworld, you don't know anything about it. Nothing ever spills out onto normal. Oh, God, hang on a minute. Right. Right, I got him quick. He had one message and then he was gone. I wonder who it is. That it's definitely someone. It's definitely someone who's been on the chat. It's definitely someone who's been on the chat again. Old School Pete is saying, so Death Wish 3 or Demolition Man, that's basically going to be the choices. No, I think it's going to be Mad Max. I do. I think it's going to be I do think it's going to be Mad Max. I don't think it's going to, I've said this for quite a few live streams. I feel we're heading towards like a Mad Max scenario. Hello, Silly is saying, and now they've taken over Europe. It's painful to watch. I'm assuming that you're talking about the invasion that we're having in the United Kingdom. Temple Man is saying you got him quick. He's been in the chat for the last 5 minutes. He'll be back. Clarendon is saying I started the Mad Max theory and it spread from here. Did you start the Mad Max theory, Clarendon? Maybe you did. I don't know. I know I was. Maybe it was you, Clarendon, who thought about it. But yeah. So my Mad Max theory of where we are in the United Kingdom right now. If you think about like the first Mad Max movie, you've like got a police force that doesn't really have any authority. They don't really arrest anyone because they don't have their power. You've got marauding gangs that are like cruising around and doing what they want, right? Like the Hackney Turks. Who gives themselves a name? Honestly, like listen, guys, I'm just going to put it out there, right? If you're a gang, right? If you're a criminal gang right now, okay, don't give yourself a name and clearly identifiable branding. It's gonna get you all arrested, right? The Hackney Turks. Googling us is saying Royal Navy frigates face 140 million rework setback. That's the total. Right, let me get this up. Hang on. I mean, we don't have a navy anymore. It's sad to see. It really is. Okay, defense contractor Babcock has announced 140 million financial hit due to a significant unexpected rework on the Royal Navy's Type 31 program. Okay, so Babcock are taking this, not the taxpayer. Total loss rise. The 140 million charge brings Babcock's total losses on the Type 31 Inspiration class frigate projected to roughly 330 million. Wow. You can't make this stuff up, can you? I could make those cheaper. Right. Can you bring them on? Can you build some ships? Yes. How much are they going to cost you? This much. Can I pay you 330 million more? Yes. So reading this, this setback is linked to a late-stage design change and construction issues at the company's Rosyth facility in Scotland. So I don't know if you guys know or not, but Rosyth is where they have the nuclear submarines. Faslane, sorry, it's not. Forget that. Faslane's where they have the nuclear submarines. Ruben is saying, so we can't have the Cleethorpes Commandos then, Sean. We are absolutely having the Cleethorpes Commandos. Absolutely. The first thing we need to do, though, seriously, and people are going out of their mind about this. They are. People going out of their mind about this. And I'm being absolutely serious. I do think that whole east coast of Britain is going to become a safe haven. I really do. The whole east coast of Britain, it will. So you've got like is it Great Yarmouth? So you've got like Great Yarmouth, and then you've got all those towns up from Great Yarmouth, maybe all the way up to like maybe even up to Northumberland, right? On that, on that east coast. So I do think I was looking at houses there today. So I do think the east coast of Britain is going to be like the your safe havens. Kinder is saying, I live in Water Valley in Tennessee. I'm Kinder Wayne Beard. Look up land deeds. Right, I'm not looking up any land deeds. Memphis is saying Mad Max B movies rip-offs were great. I don't think I've ever seen any. Right, let me jump back onto the chat here. Give me a second. Andy is saying Royal Navy to spend 200 grand on redesign of women's uniform tunics. And I think that will be money well spent. Money well spent. And Googlinos is saying no more growth for the UK this year, warns US banking giant. Okay, right, look. Imagine where we're going to be this summer. If anybody thinks what I'm saying is wrong, please throw it up on the chat, guys. Please put it up on the, please put it up on the chat, right? So imagine the direction of travel that we are heading towards right now in the United Kingdom, okay? Cost of living, fuel crisis, food shortages. So not only is the cost of everything going up, there's going to be stuff not there. The actual shortages are going to be there as well. Link up culture, fractured councils, fractured governments, hantavirus, novovirus. I don't know if you guys know. Tomorrow I'll be doing another update on that. So there's been another cruise ship. I don't know if you guys. So there's basically been another cruise ship that's been stopped. They've been stopped off the coast, and they're not letting people on shore in France. Hot weather, maybe even a water shortage. Can you imagine where, and an absolute backwards direction as a country? Can you imagine what carnage and chaos is coming this year? Demery Genes, yeah, I said this was going to come last year, right? I did. I said this was going to come last year. And I thought the catalyst for the Summer of Carnage last year was going to be an attack on the Oasis concert, right? Just everything fit into line perfectly. And then when it didn't happen, right? When there wasn't an attack on the Oasis concert, people were like, look, Sean. I was like, no, that's actually a good thing. Nobody's dead. And then it turns out, yeah, there was an attack planned. It was just thwarted at the last minute. Now, I do think that would have look, whether it comes this year or next year or the year after, it's definitely going to come. KK is KK is saying my daughter could see the cruise ship in the distance from Gran Canaria. She's home now, but was nervous getting on the plane. Are you talking about the? I think you're talking about the. What was it? Go on. Yeah, the hantavirus. Rod Panhard is saying Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan says if Labour goes any further left, they're pulling all their UK investments. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe that's the genius, guys. Maybe that's the genius. Honestly, I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't think it'll be bad for a bit. but we will get better. If I was in charge of this country right now, the first thing I would do is get rid of every penny of international investment we have. Every penny. I would just rip it out. It would be hard for a while, but then we'd grow our own shit back. And you know what happens when you grow stuff naturally? You use it yourself and you can reuse it. Emma Jane is saying there's always stuff like that on cruise ships. It's been going on for a long time. I've been aware of cruisers. People around me go on them. It's suddenly big news. Yes, exactly. So we have a friend, and they used to work on cruise ships, or like a cabaret dancer, and they say all the time there's always a helicopter coming on and like winching somebody off, you know, because on these cruise ships you get a lot of, not particularly the Antarctic one, but you know, normally on cruise ships you get a lot of older people. You know, new food, new germs, the new environment, and it's a lot to take for some, you know, the older people. So yes, I totally agree. You know, there is absolutely always stuff going on cruise ships. But for me, one of the big, you know, for me, one of the big combat indicators is not the actual event, it's the amount of media attention that event's getting. Silly Gallardi is saying, if I was a UK politician, I would not want to be the Prime Minister right now. Yeah, it's just carnage. It's actually funny. Oh, hang on a minute. Ruben is saying, Sean, alert, get Google Enos's post. Hang on. Police could use armoured vehicles to prevent rival protesters clashing in London. I'm assuming that's this weekend. Scotland Yard is deploying 4,000 officers and could even draft in armoured vehicles. What says totalitarian state more than armoured vehicles on the streets? Oh, hang on a minute. And universal credit claims hit record 8.3 million. This can't be right, guys. Honestly, this can't be right. I can remember, if any of you guys lived through the financial crisis, right? I can remember when it was like unemployment went up to like, so like in the financial crisis in 2008, the unemployment went up to like, I think it went up to like 3.8 million. And then it just kept going and going and going. And it was like a national crisis when it hit 5 million. It was like a national crisis when it hit 5 million. The only thing I can think of with this, right, is they are slowly bringing people onto, they're slowly bringing people onto universal basic income because, you know, if the government come out and they say, yep, we're bringing out universal basic income, people are going to be very cautious, right? People are going to think, hang on a minute, this is not right. However, if they just open a website, I don't know. I don't know if this is how it works. But I think somebody said on the chat that you don't even have to, like, you can literally just go on a website now and you can do all this stuff. But basically, we now have 8.3 million people who I would argue are 8.3 million who I would argue are now receiving universal basic income, right? Because you know they're getting they're getting their free money. Right, listen, guys, I'm good. Let me give you guys a rundown on what I've been talking about, and then I will start to close this live stream down. So earlier on today in the King's speech, the King said he was going to bring out, he's going to instruct the government to bring out and make happen the digital ID. And I've been talking today, like I do so many times, about ultimately here in the United Kingdom, the people of this country, we don't have any framework or any laws or any any unbreakable rule that the government can't go back on. For example, in the United States, they have the Constitution, and you're not allowed to touch that. You can't mess about with that Constitution. That is it, and that is every American's birthright to live under that Constitution. That's their right as an American citizen. We don't have anything like that. I've said this so many times. We can sign online petitions. We can protest peacefully. We can write to our MPs. We can do all the rest of it. We can campaign until we're blue in the teeth. But if nothing works out, and if the government still ignore you, and the government still refuse to change path, the uncomfortable truth, and it is an uncomfortable truth, is we lack a clear ultimate check against tyranny. We have no written constitution that sets unbreakable limits on government power. And without that, things will just keep getting worse, and people will wonder why. And it will just go from one thing to another thing to another thing. And at the end, it's just going to lead to violence, because ultimately, when you squeeze things, when you've got things in a pot, when you've got the pressure cooker in a pot and it's, and it's really hot, if you bolt that lid on, it will explode. But it's just going to be a lot worse, right? If you let that steam go off, if you give the people what they need, which is room, which is space, which is freedom, everything will be fine. But when you don't do that, I'll leave you with this, guys. It was JFK who said, when a government makes peaceful revolution impossible, they make a violent revolution inevitable. And that's where I feel we're going at this moment, guys. I really do. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close you guys down. Templar Matt is saying, start asking your bosses to pay you in cash in a brown paper envelope. Can we have a white paper envelope? Templar Matt, can we have a white paper envelope, please? Start asking your bosses to pay you in I don't know, maybe it has to come in a brown envelope. Start asking your bosses to pay you in cash in a brown paper envelope. We all need to start using more cash. Stop being lazy and get some cash and use it. And on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you all good night. I bid you all good evening. I will see you guys in the morning, 10 o'clock. Don't be late.